The text for our message this morning is actually Psalm 23, which is printed in the cover of our bulletin. And I will read this very familiar text that is in our liturgy also, as we can see from the readings and the singing. And it says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life." If you have flown, you are familiar with what they do just before taxiing and taking off. They brief you on the safety measures, what to do if something happens during the flight, if there's an accident. Well, if you're a frequent flyer, you probably don't even pay attention to that. And as you can see, most people, they're not paying attention to the instructions. They just go about doing whatever they want, they're doing, and don't pay attention. I like the way an airline company starts their briefing. They start like this: You already know this, but it's always good to remember. Well, I feel like reading Psalm 23, you already know it. I'm sure you know it. Probably one of the most popular psalms. Some people will be able to say it by heart. Very familiar, very well known. Can we say anything new about this psalm? Many sermons, many expositions have been made. So, yes, it's very well known, but it's always good to remember. The psalm is obviously speaking of the Lord as shepherd. It's a psalm of confidence. The psalmist declares trust in the Lord, and it invites us to trust in the Lord. And it tells us that the Lord brings us comfort, and it does bring us comfort to know that God is present with us. As any other psalm, this is poetry. So he uses imagery, figures of speech, to better communicate some abstract ideas. That the power of poetry, of this imagery, is to be able to transmit abstract ideas into real life situations. Poetry uses these symbols in the real life situations to help us relate to some ideas. So how can we express confidence, trust, care? Well, the psalm gives us a very good idea through this imagery. Yes, for sure. It's not typical of our modern life, It's very typical of agrarian life, or someone in the field, a rural situation, not typical of our situation, but we can relate it because we know something about this. There are actually two key images that the psalm speaks of. Most popular is the imagery of the shepherd. The Lord's my shepherd. The less evident or less remembered is the one that starts from verse 5 on. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. It is the imagery of a host, of being welcomed in someone's home and being taken care of. So I want to look briefly at these images and how the Psalms lead us through this. As I said, the first and maybe more obvious is the idea of the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. And I want to highlight some of the actions of the shepherd. What does the shepherd do? He makes me lie down. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul, and he leads me in the right paths. I would say that this portrays two things. First, our basic needs: food, water, rest, guidance. Our walk is knowing how to walk in our paths. The shepherd is a person who will lead his herd through, paths, correct paths, so they won't, go away. Will lead them to food, to water, and give them rest. Can you see something more routinely or basic? It's the day-to-day care. Usually we don't recognize, or we're not always explicit about how God cares for our basic needs. We usually remember of God's care when something out of the ordinary, something unusual happens. Say you have almost an accident, a near miss. And you say, wow, the Lord freed me from something that could have been worse. Then we remember God's protection. Well, what about all those days that you didn't have a close call? The Lord was there. The Lord was taking care of you. So what I see in these first three verses is the imagery of the shepherd, the one that takes care of the sheep in its daily and routinely needs. But he gives us the basic, day to day: food, drink, rest, and guidance through the right paths. So you may say, nothing extraordinary here. Nothing extraordinary. But I would say maybe this first teaching is that we need to be able to recognize that God is there. God's providence is taking care of us in our ordinary needs. As we work, as we're provided with food and so on. In our modern secular mind, we may think, well, what I have, my house, my food, it's all result of my own work. So I do all the work. So I deserve all this. Well, in our understanding and according to this psalm, the Lord is taking care of us in our basic needs. But we may say that our trust in God is tested in times of trouble. So we come to verse 4 and we read this: even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. This is a situation where our trust is put into test. When things get out of the ordinary, when something unexpected may happen. I'll say there are two important aspects in this verse. First is this expression, even though I walk. Well, apparently this is not someone who is going through a hard time, but is thinking of there is a possibility that something goes wrong. There might be a situation that things are not going to stay as we expect. The verse 3 verses, it's very orderly, it's very routinely. But sometimes our routines are broken by some, surprising situation. And the psalmists say, even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil. And what happens when this comes? It's a statement of confidence before trouble comes. And it attests the strong confidence in the Lord's protection, even in the midst of trouble, the darkest valley. By the way, this expression means the valley of the shadow of death. It's a saying, a very dangerous situation. Almost close to death. It expresses, let's say, an anticipatory trust. I fear no evil. I'd say that this expression it shows confidence that yes, the Lord is my shepherd, and I know that if things doesn't continue as it is, if something extraordinary happens, I know I will not fear evil, even if I'm going through the valley of the shadow of death. Well, the second thing about this verse is that he is addressing the Lord himself. If you notice, first three verses is referring to the Lord as He. He leads me. He makes me lie. He leads me to still waters. He restored my soul. Now he's saying, I fear no evil, for you are with me. It's almost as the psalmist is addressing or directing the people, and then he turns and says, you, Lord, you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me. It becomes very personal. He's addressing the Lord himself, and he is expressing his confidence that in the midst of this hard situation, he is protected by the Lord. He will fear no evil. Why? Because he's strong? No, not because he's strong, but because God is there. His confidence is based not in his own experience or his own strength, but in the fact that he believes that it was strongly that God is there. He comforts me. You comfort me. Um, and this word comfort suggests, some suffering, and the Lord will comfort. So the Lord is my shepherd. He takes care of our basic needs. But sometimes we go through valleys, dark valleys. But we can continue trusting, not because we're going to be strong enough to go through all this situation, but because the Lord is there. But you may say, well, this, even though it's not a real situation, it's like, oh well, this will be easy. I'll be able to handle. Somebody say, well, we can never know for sure beforehand how our suffering is going to be, or how we're going to be reacting to the situations that we go through. True, we cannot know. But one thing we know, and this Psalms teaches us, that whatever the circumstances, for sure God is going to be there. God is with us. I understand that this doesn't overestimate our strength, neither underestimates the suffering, but it expresses the conviction that whatever may happen, God is there. The final verses, verses 5 through 6, he continues addressing the Lord. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. This final verses, as I said, he uses the imagery of a host, someone who is welcoming a stranger, perhaps. He prepares a table. He anoints the head. He offers a cup, all in the presence of my enemy. This is typical of ancient Near East welcoming of a visitor. One author suggests that the imagery depicts a runaway from a clan seeking asylum at another clan and being protected by the chief. There, he is offered food and care, and then he is put under protection. Then he is escorted out by some escorts who this author suggests is goodness and mercy will follow all the days of my life. So here in the imagery is the imagery of someone who is protecting a person who is under some sort of threat. And the host brings him in, gives him food, gives him drink, perhaps heals him or applies some oil to heal some bruises and so on. Someone who's been suffering some threat and is now taken care by a host. And the psalmist is saying, you, Lord, you are this person. So if I go through the darkest valley, I know you're there. And I know I'm gonna be protected. because you're going to protect me. This author also points out that both images mention rest and path, walk. And interestingly, the rest precedes the path, comes before in both images. The first image, he makes me lie down in green pasture. He leads me beside still water. He restores my soul, the idea of rest. And then he leads me in the right path. In the second imagery, he prepares me a table before me in the presence of my enemies. He anoints my head. And my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me as I go on with my life. As I move on, I will still be protected by goodness and mercy. These two things come together, rest and path. Our life is a continuous sequence of rest, protection, and walks of life. As we go about our life, we are protected. Of course, many times we would like to stay in a safe place where we don't have to get to be under threat, be at risk. But the Psalm teaches us that even if we leave the place of rest, goodness and mercy will be with us, or the Lord's rod and staff will comfort us. So this psalm teaches us to be thankful for God's protection in our daily routine, even if we don't notice. We go about and our life goes on, everything normal. But the Lord is there. Sometimes we go through dark valleys, and we need to be confident that the Lord is there also. That's what is going to hold us strong. We need to be confident that He is with us in all circumstances. And we need to rest that His goodness and mercy will escort us all the time. May the Lord bless us. Amen.